I'm glad to welcome you to the second lesson of the course, How Not to Lose in the Opening Playing a Chess Game. I hope you managed to cope with the homework posted in our Telegram channel group. Way to go! If you have any questions, write in the comments and I'll be sure to answer. I'll also be happy to see everyone in the private club on chess.com and on Instagram. Now let's move on. In this lesson, we'll break down the 3 pillars on which the opening rests. There are 3 main principles that underpin the play of the opening. The first pillar is a quick and purposeful mobilization of forces. Remember the last lesson, we were looking at a game where the queen was rushing around the board and trying to mate a child's checkmate. White's mistake was not only in the early development of the queen, he forgot about the other pieces. In the opening, it is necessary to try to develop a new piece into the game with every move. Naturally, it is necessary to develop pieces and pawns not as it happens, and so that, having taken the initial positions, they helped each other, not hindered. Let me explain by example. White brought out a knight and attacked a pawn. The question arises, what to defend it with? Maybe make a move bishop on d6? It would seem to be a great idea. You have brought out a piece and protected your pawn. But I hasten to disappoint you, such a move is bad, because the bishop becomes in front of the pawn d and prevents the other bishop on c8 from entering the game. In addition, soon I will talk about the role of the center pawns in the opening and it will be clear why you should not get in their way. The normal defense of the pawn on e5 is the knight on c6. What do you think can happen if a chess player neglects the principle of quick and purposeful mobilization of forces? I propose for an illustrative example, to analyze the game that was played between Averbakh and Gagarin in 1938. In this position black has the move and they decided, why not try to take the pawn on c2? Let's summarize the results. Black has an extra pawn, but white pieces are fully mobilized. Will black be able to maintain a material advantage and have time to develop all his pieces? In turn, white has harmonious disposition and they only need to move the rook f1 on the square e1 and already threaten to move the bishop on f6. Therefore, black tries to throw away white's pieces. It would seem that black has achieved his goal, occupied the center with pawns, and attacked the rook. But this combination blow immediately puts everything in its place. Black, making seemingly active moves with pawns, exposed the king's position, and with arrested development it usually leads to fatal consequences. Threaten move the bishop on b5. Black's answer is forced. Of course black can't move king on e7, because the knight will be a pinned piece. If king on f6, then rook on c3, and rook on f3, check. Black was lost. The second pillar is the arrangement of pawns. Pawns play an important role in both offensive and defensive. Unlike the pieces, they never retreat. And this important property imposes a special responsibility when they move forward. When we move pawns, we open the way for our pieces and increase space control. And at first glance, it seems that we should just drive the pawns forward. But it's not that simple. In the open space, can penetrate the opponent's pieces. Most dangerous of all, moving pawns, expose the king. For example, let's analyze the position from the game Tolush and Alatorcev, played in Riga in 1954. At the beginning of the game, white moved pawns far, and although they were able to make space grab, weakened their camp. In this position it is already time to move to defense. And the queen's move on e3 looks great. But white looks only forward. They moved rook on g5 with the threat of rook on h5. Excellent move. Black reflects this threat and moves to counterattack, attacking the rook on g1. If the rook on h5, then the queen on d4 check and gh. As you can see, the position changes dramatically. This move leads to the loss of a piece, but there is no salvation. For example, after rook on e5, knight on d3 check, bishop on d3 cd, and white is lost. In the game was and black won. How to place pawns correctly? The task of pawns is to help to develop pieces and cover them from the attack of the opponent's pawns. Therefore, in the opening it is important to arrange the pawn chain so that under its cover to bring out to the initial positions of minor pieces. Each plan for the arrangement of pieces corresponds to its drawing pawn chain. In the opening more often put forward the central pawns, not flank pawns. And why, you will learn now. The third pillar is the center. Center in the narrow sense is the squares e4, e5, d4, d5. They form a square. In a broad sense, the center includes the adjacent surrounding squares. The pieces located on these squares can be quickly moved to play on any flank. Obviously, if a piece is located in the center of the chessboard, except probably only the rook, will control the maximum number of squares. Therefore, fighting for the center is one of the main tasks when playing the opening. The one who controls more squares in the center, as a rule, has an advantage on the chessboard. To seize the center means to occupy it reliably with your pawns and under their cover to actively place pieces. A striking example is the position from the Sokolsky-Koblenz game, played in 1944 in Kiev. At first glance, black pieces are developed, it remains only to castling. However, white has complete control of the center, and this allows him to win quickly. What should black do now? Threatens checkmate, queen on f7. The castling will be followed by the bishop on h6. Now taking a piece loses, gh bishop on e4, and there is no defense against checkmate. Threatens queen on g6, followed by checkmate on g7, and there is no defense against this threat. If the king on h8, then perhaps bishop on g7, king on g7, rook on e4, and black loses. And if, instead of castling, make move rook on f8. Then after queen on h7, pawn on g5, knight on e4, white's attack is irrefutable. And the black king gets checkmate. In this lesson, we learned the three main principles of the opening strategy. We analyzed examples from games that demonstrate them. To consolidate the knowledge we have gained, I suggest that you do your homework. The homework, as you already know, can be found in the Telegram channel by following the link in the channel description. I wish you good luck and see you at the next lesson. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the new lesson.